I tell you, behind the scenes of these things is sometimes some of the funniest stuff ever, eh, Ryan? Like, forgot my watch as we were hitting go, and I'm like, okay, I got 37 seconds to get my watch, and I'm running in my head, I'm going 36, 35, 34, and then you're trying to put it on, and it's like when you're rushing out the door and you're stumbling and things aren't happening. But anyways, other than that, brother, how you doing?
Doing spectacular, my man. I am ecstatic. Yesterday was a great day talking about all the things that were going on data day. And I'm excited for today even more because it's always kind of cool when you get to connect with other people, other content creators, other people who actually have actually created businesses with this and, can kind of give us the tips and strategies. We learn as much as for our audience as well. But, today's guest, I'm just really excited to dig in deep and having that pre-chat with him and just the amazing things that he's done and his philosophy and content is just spectacular. So I'm excited for today, brother. How about you?
Yeah, oh, me too. I'm actually glad we pulled the audible on Tuesday instead of trying to trying to panic and get another guest on, because Chris, I think, is going to drop some serious value for people. I think this is a topic that more and more people are hopefully getting into because it works. I know for us, it's, well, they say when the student's ready, the teacher will appear. And it is the exact position we're at, where how do we refine the content, make it shorter, but deliver powerful messages? And it's going to be pretty awesome today. So should we just bring Chris on?
Yeah, let's bring him on. He is the host of Video Selling Live. He has an amazing company as well. He works with SenseSpark, one of the companies that we work with as well. And, someone that I'm just intrigued, where that similarities. Whenever you meet somebody brand new, you always want to kind of see if there's any kind of relatabilities. And right within like a minute, I was like, holy crap, like we relate quite a bit. So welcome to Sales Chatter Live, Chris. How you doing this morning? And bright and early in Chicago.
I'm great.
Chicago.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, Chi-Town.
The windy. I love Chicago. Chicago was one of my favorite cities to visit. When the first time I got out at O'Hare, I mean, Chris, I was overwhelmed with just the size of the airport for starters, and just the city in general. It was so cool. But yeah, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, big question for me that I have is why video content?
Yeah, everything you see me doing on LinkedIn is kind of an accident. I kind of accidentally fell into video content creation. Certainly never thought I was going to run my own business, or definitely didn't think I was going to be a LinkedIn content creator. The stars just kind of aligned, and I kind of had this moment where it was the right thing to do. I've been doing sales for a long time. I was actually doing education technology sales when COVID happened. And, the three best ways to reach my prospects were call their office, visit them on campus, or visit them at an education conference. So COVID happened. Suddenly nobody is in their office anymore. All my flights were canceled. All the conferences were canceled. And I still had to hit my quota. So I started getting on video. I started sending little 30-second, 60-second type videos. And I was just blown away by how powerful it was. The sellers on my team, even the top reps on the team, couldn't make 3 or 4 videos in a week. I could just sit down and make 25 in an afternoon, and I would set 5 meetings off that. And I was like, wow, this is powerful stuff. And no one's teaching it. You know, I looked around. I'm like, I think video is only going to become more important in business. There are more creators making more videos on more platforms every day. And this is not something they teach you in business school, you know, and this is not something they have scholarship around and studies around the same way they do around calling and emailing and running sales presentations. So I was like, I'm going to start teaching this. And I started teaching video prospecting. I started a business. I needed to promote myself. So I started putting content out there. And I kind of accidentally fell back into sketch comedy because I had done that for like 15 years. And that was always my little secret that I kept away from my business personality. And yeah, I just decided to kind of finally marry the two together. So what you see me doing, if anybody follows me on LinkedIn or TikTok or any of the platforms I'm on, is like, yeah, it is half like sales and business training, but it also is infused with this Second City Chicago improv based kind of style. And I guess that's why I'm here today.
That is spectacular. I think that is remarkable. First and foremost, I want to acknowledge a couple of things you said here. So you said like goes back to like the pandemic, and a lot of people had to pivot. You know, us who's watching, our audience is logistics sales reps, right? So those in-person meetings, those conferences, those weren't there anymore. We had to rely on Zoom. I remember the first time I had to download Zoom and try to conduct a meeting. I feel like anytime you do Zoom, you still that first like 2 minutes is like, can you hear me properly or not? But I want to acknowledge that you mentioned with Second City Chicago itself and that improv. For our audience watching out here, Chris, we find that the feedback that we get is that, you know, I'm not comfortable being in front of a camera. I just don't know how to start. I might sound stupid, you know, I might not have the right message. In your business that you teach other people to be comfortable with it, what is some of the key skills or the key tips that you're getting from your clients itself that can help our audience this morning?
Yeah, so it's a mindset thing. Let's just kind of start like definition wise, like what is improv? If anybody's ever studied at the Second City or the Groundlings or anything like that, yeah, it's Second City, Toronto. You know, you learn that like when you're watching Whose Line Is It Anyway or something like that on TV, you think it's like, oh, people go up there and they come up with funny things on the spot. But once you actually learn the foundations of it, you realize no, it's actually this system, and it's built on a principle called yes and the yes and principle means that whatever the other person is saying, you have to accept as the truth. Once it is said, it is true. You cannot deny them. You cannot like shoot down an initiation once it's been made. And your job as an improviser is to support your fellow players. It's not to make yourself look good. It's to make the other person look good. So, you know, on video, what this means is like if I am sending a video to a prospect and it's 30 seconds long and I'm trying to get a business meeting out of it, when I turn on the camera, in my mind, I am not thinking of myself as the main character. The camera is the main character. I am the supporting character. I am trying to show up as the most helpful person in my prospect's day. And if you are talking directly to the camera, if you are talking directly to them about things they care about, like that's really where the sweet spot is, you know? And once you start thinking about that, once you start being like, okay, well, the other person is the main character. I am here as the support player. What's the most supportive thing I could say on camera? It gets a lot easier to figure out what you're going to say. And even if they don't respond with like booking a meeting with you, if you pick up the phone and call them, now you're not, you know, like Dan cold calling out of nowhere. Hey, can I get 17 seconds to tell you what I'm doing? You're the guy who made a video for them. You're the guy who said something about them. You're the guy who's talking about the things they care about. And yeah, their nature is kind of to yes and you, right? Presumably everything you said in the video was true and relevant to them. And yeah, it's just kind of a way to start the conversation going before you get into any of the messy sales tactics that everybody hates, you know? So yeah, it's a mindset. And once you learn how to yes and, it kind of changes the way you communicate forever, and you really can't unlearn it.
So when you're creating your videos, Um, do you have a framework? Do you like kind of pick the main topic and then write or explore what's some comedy around the main topic? Because a lot of the comedy is real life things that we go through, which makes comics even funnier because they're talking about real stuff, right? So,
Mhm.
what is your kind of framework for that way of doing the video?
Yeah, so let's clarify what we're talking about here. So I do like two kinds of video. So for video prospecting for sales, I am not doing comedy. You know, I
Okay.
am talking straight to that person. I'm not performing for them. I'm acting like they're sitting here in the room with me and we're just talking. And like, I might send a 15-second video that's just a single question. You know, if it's longer than that, it's probably not going to be longer than 45 seconds. And the things in sales that I start with usually are like their goals, their values, or an elephant in the room problem that they might be experiencing. So I literally write down on a post-it note, you, because again, it's a video about them. I'm talking about them. I'm talking about what they care about, and then I'm making it very easy for them to respond to me. So that's one thing I'm doing. That is video prospecting. There are a lot of trainers out there who tell you to make creative videos. I don't do that for sales, especially when you're dealing with something like logistics. You don't really have time to do that. You can't really scale a process like that if it's this creative talent show every time. So yeah, my sales videos, they are short, they are to the point, they are about the other person. When I'm doing video for content, all bets are off, right? Go as creative as possible. You want to throw in music and characters and dancing and I'm all for it. You know, sky's the limit. You have to remember what your audience is there for. And if I'm in your inbox, you're probably not looking to be entertained, right? I go to my email inbox when I need to respond to a client, or if I need to respond to a boss, or maybe I'm looking for like a promotional code or something from some online store I shop at. That's why I am in my inbox. I'm not there to watch comedy bits. When I'm in the news feed, I'll watch a comedy bit. And when your buyers are in the news feed, they're looking to be educated, they're looking to be entertained, they want to figure out what's going on in their industry. You got to take them somewhere unexpected. You got to show them something maybe that they didn't already know. And yeah, that is a talent show out there. You kind of got to find a way to be charming and different and attention grabbing. But I view those as two completely different functions. And I actually see on LinkedIn, people get it backwards. They make this really boring content that nobody cares about for the feed because they think they have to be serious.
Yeah.
And then they want to butter up their prospects. So they're these overly explainy or like overly jokey or like really kind of desperate videos where you're just like pleading for the other person's attention. And I do my desperation out on the news feed. That's the way I do it.
This is so cool. I love this. I love I want to acknowledge one thing that you just said there, that being that punchy. And I want everybody out in the audience watching right now to understand that when we go to our email, we have a specific purpose. I've never thought about that point of view until you just mentioned that. Like, I'm not going to my email to be entertained. I'm going there for a purpose. Really, if I want to be entertained, I'm going to go on TikTok. I'm going to go on Instagram. I don't know if I will look for comedy on LinkedIn, but like now it's appropriate to kind of be there, right? So, Chris, one of the best videos that I've ever seen, prospecting video, was this gentleman. I forgot the company it was, but he was prospecting Buffalo Wild Wings at the time. So he couldn't get through. He couldn't get any phone calls, couldn't get any emails. So what he did is that he went to Buffalo Wild Wings. He bought the spiciest wings that they sell. And then he just hit record and he did his pitch while eating those wings. And that kind of like went a bit viral from that point of view. But I like that you said that, that 15 to 45 seconds, shout out to Second City, because that's something representing Second City, Toronto here. And I love the yes and. I think a lot of sales reps and anybody in any industry, we can get that. Instead of getting to that combative or like trying to prove a point, you get to that yes and, so that you kind of get to the point here. A lot of people kind of ask about the algorithm from LinkedIn. I know it's constantly being fixed. We've had Anthony Jones, who is basically an influencer and a marketer as well, saying that, you know, the algorithm is changing for the better and going a little bit more businessy. But then when I look at your content, like you said, you all bets are off, do the dancing, got the roles and all those things. What do you find is like one of the most effective platforms that you've kind of seen for your business and your personal as well, for your branding specifically?
Yeah, I love LinkedIn. You know, it gets a bad rep. People hate it. People think it's cringe, and it is. But I mean, find me a social network that isn't. You know,
Yeah, that's true.
my philosophy on LinkedIn, and the reason why my stuff looks a little different than most of the content you see on LinkedIn, is because LinkedIn is the only platform for adults. You know, there are no children on LinkedIn. You don't have to compete with teenagers and, you know, prank videos and a lot of the you know, things that people know about TikTok. It's like on LinkedIn, your audience is adults. They have a higher level of income and a higher level of education than the audiences you're going to find on other social networks. You know, so my philosophy on LinkedIn is, if the audience is adults, you can talk to them like adults, you know? And for me, that means like I can have comedy in there that kind of surprises people, because you can touch on adult topics and the LinkedIn police don't come along and arrest you for it, you know? Everyone's kind of sleeping on it. And it's one of those things too, where it's like, you know, obviously, like, the algorithm affects me, and I'm always trying to like make sure my stuff gets seen by the most people possible. But if you're creating on LinkedIn, you have to remember that like you can still make money with a small audience. And you know, if you're a consultant, or, you know, if you're in sales and you're selling a high ticket item, odds are you don't have to sell 1,000 units a month to hit your quota. You need a couple good deals to close, and you can absolutely do that with a small audience. I was getting 5-figure consulting deals when I had fewer than 1,000 followers, you know, just because I was showing up with a relevant message. I was connecting with people who would be good for me. I was getting interested in what they were doing, and I was showing up and expressing interest in them. And then when I send that video out and it's me talking about them and what they care about, and, you know, they look and they're like, oh, this guy seems nice, I'll meet with him. Like, how many meetings do you really need to hit your financial goals, you know?
I like that. I like that. So right now, your favorite platform for video content is LinkedIn. Brandy's asking.
Yeah. Link for what I'm doing, LinkedIn makes the most sense, because again, I'm a sales trainer. I sell to sales teams. I also do individual coaching. So LinkedIn is where a lot of entrepreneurs go to network. And you know, it's like, that's good for me. For some people, it's like Facebook makes more sense, or, you know, YouTube makes more sense, or like I coach people to go where their buyers are, you know. And again, maybe you're not selling services, maybe you're just trying to launch a brand, you're trying to launch a podcast or something. It's like, you can start by going to the place your people already hang out at, and then just get curious about like, what is it that they want out of this platform, what are they looking for here, and how can you show up as a person they would want to see, you know? And oftentimes that's just as simple as looking at yourself and being like, well, what do I want out of this platform? What do I like? What kinds of videos do I like? And kind of working backwards from there. But my whole kind of thing is like, yeah, you find the audience that you want, you know, no matter what you sell, no matter what your topic is. There's people out there that are already looking for it. They're already having conversations about it. There are other creators already talking about those things. You just go and start yes-anding people, and things just start happening.
So would you say like LinkedIn is more B2B, whereas an Instagram and TikTok are more B2C?
Yeah, I mean, LinkedIn is kind of changing. You know, that's the interesting thing, is like, these like companies themselves are acting more like B2C companies, even if they are
Yeah.
B2B.
I noticed that too.
Yeah, that's just a shift that's been happening. And, my whole thing is kind of like, you got to pick your platform and get in the habit and get in the rhythm of creating consistently. And then once you're able to do that, you can expand to other platforms too, and it's easier to get some momentum going on a new platform if you've got like a library of content and you can be out there consistently. I just find when people start, they usually get overwhelmed. They're trying to do too many things on too many platforms at one time.
Yeah.
They don't really get any traction on any of them, and then they just give up. Whereas, like, if you start on TikTok and you grow a successful TikTok brand, and then you bring that to LinkedIn, like, you'll probably find people that are into it, or like right now, YouTube Shorts, is big because they're trying to compete with TikTok, and that's another one where it's like, hey, you've got a bunch of vertical TikTok content that's shorter than a minute. You put that on YouTube. YouTube boosts shorts aggressively, my clients who use it, and when I use it, sometimes you'll post a video on shorts, you'll get like 10 times the engagement of a long form video. And like that's great. And I try not to talk about the algorithm too much because it's always going to be changing. The second everybody figures it out, they change it, because that's just how the nature of algorithms goes.
Yeah.
The algorithm
I still remember the big Facebook slap. Back in the day when Facebook was like, you'd post one thing on Facebook, you had like 10,000 people that see it. And you're like, wow, that was pretty cool. And then all of a sudden you wake up one day and there's like 3 people that see it.
Yeah, I remember the exact day organic died on Facebook because I was doing live comedy shows at the time. I had a weekly show that ran for a couple of years in Chicago, and it was every Sunday night. We did the show at Comedy Sports, and it was half improv, half sketch. We would all make a Facebook post and sell out the house, and then one day it was like, hey, if you pay $17, this could reach 30 people. And it's like, oh man, that was nice while it lasted, and that's the nature of social media. They're always going to try to stay one step ahead of you. And, that's why I kind of teach it more for like, hey, these platforms might die and some new platform is going to take its space. The thing I'm really trying to get at is like, who are you on camera? Who are you to your audience? Whenever I'm coaching a content creator, the first thing I ask them is like, okay, let's say you controlled the algorithm, right? And you're going to put this video on there and you could send it directly to the audience that you want to see it. Who is that audience? And oftentimes they don't know. And I'm like, okay, that's the first thing you got to figure out. Like, who do you actually want the message to go to? And, then you got to get clever about how you're going to get in front of those people. But it's like the algorithm is just a collection of human decisions. And it's not a puzzle that can be solved. It's a beast that you must tame, and you're never going to have full control over it. You can bend it to your will a little bit. But again, it's kind of like a wild animal. And the second you think you've got it mastered, it's going to surprise you, and you're going to be pretty disappointed if you're not prepared for that.
That's so cool. I think, a lot of great knowledge here. So, Chris, like as you were mentioning, when you're talking to your content creators and you're training them and then you're giving them some advice to, hey, look within and kind of figure out where you want to deliver this message. For someone who wants to be able to strictly prospect and they want to send out videos to clients on LinkedIn through emails and different things like that, what are your recommended tools that you would recommend anybody to kind of use to really get comfortable, where it kind of takes the guesswork instead of hitting record on a camera and doing like a million takes? What are there some seamless tools that an audience member can use?
Yeah, so if you're a seller, I recommend using SendSpark. It like, especially if you run a team, like you need some insight as to what's working and what is not working. If anybody is watching this and they are not at the level where they're buying a tool, I say use your phone instead of your webcam on your computer. Most webcams, even if you've got like a fairly recent MacBook, most of them are not in HD. You know, I talk a lot to people who don't want to get started on video because they're like, I don't have the equipment yet. I need a fancy camera and I need a green screen. And it's like, no, you don't. You actually have a high definition camera in your pocket already. A lot of my friends are very successful content creators. Some of them are built a very successful, like, multi-million-dollar content brand on YouTube and TikTok. They have an entire like crew of people editing and shooting for them, you know. And my friend, he shows me, he's like, hey, this is a $6,000 camera here. I still film half of my content on this, right? Because that's easier. That is HD quality video. If you are in a well-lit room, it looks amazing. You can shoot in 4K. And like, yeah, it's actually a big hassle to set all that stuff up all the time. Winning at video right now is not a question of technology.
Mm-hmm.
It's a question of like, who are you and what do you have to say? And you know, I'm gonna like disappoint a lot of people here, but it's like people will spend so much time and money and effort trying to make the perfect video, and then the thing you spend 30 seconds on filming in your backyard, that's the thing that goes viral.
Yes.
You and your audience are going to disagree about what good content is, and that's just part of the game. Like, I've made some stuff that I think is an absolute masterpiece, and it bombs, you know? And it's just like, you can't get hung up on perfection because it's always the thing that you didn't expect to be a big hit. That's the thing that ends up resonating with your audience. And from a coaching perspective, I'd just say, great. That's the thing that overperformed. How do we give them more of this? You know, maybe it's that point of view. Maybe it's like the format of the video. Maybe it's the topic, whatever it is. It's like the audience liked this better than everything else. So how do we just give them more, you know?
Yeah. And like you said, it's those virals. I can relate to that so much because like even on my own TikTok, the videos that I do, like I have 3 dogs, so I do like kind of like dog creator stuff. And the ones that I'm like, okay, this one's gonna be really good, really good. And then the ones that I don't look at, like there was one video that you guys are a rolling pin, right? So my mom was making like a flatbread with a rolling pin, but she came to my house and I don't have a rolling pin, so I gave her a beer bottle. So she was actually using the beer bottle as a thing, and that hit like 32,000 like views and I think X amount of likes and stuff like that overnight. I'm like, are you kidding me? You know, like all I did was hit record and just put a little bit of music and things like that. And for everybody who's like looking out there for like, you know, your content or sending out to prospects, you know, find that relatability to them and then understand what your message truly is. Because I love what you said in terms of earlier in this conversation, Chris, about, you know, one-to-one, you can't scale that. So what are your thoughts on, you know, somebody who actually does want to kind of scale their prospecting? Let's say they've got about 50 touches a day, 25 to 50, and they want to look at, hey, I don't want to be spending 6 hours doing this. I want to spend just a couple hours make it basically refined. Yeah.
So, you know, I teach video for sales, but video is not the only tool I have in the kit. You know, I'm doing it all. So it's like, you know, video, calling, emailing, voice notes, text-based messages, emails. I mean, you got to hit them all. And yeah, something like a short, simple message you could blast out to 50 people, and then you just send the video to the ones that you get responses from. That's something you can do. And, you know, I've surveyed my network quite a bit on their use of video. And like even the teams that are paying for, you know, professional licenses for video programs, their sales team, like individual sellers, are rarely making more than 5 custom videos in a month. You know, I sell a course. I you know, teach video prospecting. My philosophy on video and sales is like, video does not replace the phone, and it does not replace email. But it is another skill that every seller should have. So just like you should be able to sit down and rip dials for an hour, or you should be able to, you know, write cold emails, the modern seller should be able to create 5 to 10 videos in under 2 hours. Like, I think 5 videos in an hour is perfectly doable for an SDR. You do 5 videos a day. That's 25 a week. That's over 100 a month. Again, most sellers out there are making fewer than 5 a month. You know, they're making 2 in a week and they spend way too much time. They overthink it. It's this whole big production. If you just talk straight to the other person and you challenge yourself to make it 45 seconds, you can absolutely do 5 in an hour. And once you can do 5 in an hour, you can up it up to 10. You know, again, 10 a day. If you keep consistent with it, that's 200 in a month. You know, that's way more than any seller out there is doing right now. And like, honestly, they're all just winging it, you know, because again, there's not a whole lot of great processes and instruction for how to do this efficiently.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And especially, you know, that kind of volume in an hour is, well, I do a lot of videos, so I'm going to say it's pretty simple. Especially if you're doing 45-second ones and you're using a tool like SendSpark, because you hit record, you record your video, you send it in like literally 30 seconds with a GIF, and you're on to the next one.
Yeah.
But I like what you said there, where, you know, you're doing 50 a week, that's over 200 a month. You know, a lot of people think day by day instead of monthly, and it's like, wow, you know, if I'm crushing out 2,400 videos a year, something's going to happen.
Yeah,
something big's going to happen.
But again, I think everybody kind of flips this around backwards. And the trend that I see in sales is no one's doing video. The videos they make take too long. And what they're doing is like, so I classify my leads as either green, yellow, or red, right? Green are the people who have expressed interest in hiring me. Like, they've literally been like, oh, I'm looking to get more into video. They've asked about my pricing. There's a greater than 50% chance that I can get them to the next step. Yellow is 50-50. It's coin flip. They fit my ideal customer profile. I have not collected any buying signals from them, really. I don't know which way they're going to go, one way or another. And then red are the people who are a less than 50% chance. So these are people who've told me no. These are people who told me they're not interested. These are people who are ghosting me, not answering my calls, not responding to messages, right? So I only send custom videos to the green and yellow leads, whereas most sellers only send them to the red leads. They send them, they're like the people who are ignoring them, the people who've told them no, the people who are running away from them, who won't answer their calls. They spend 5 hours making this 4-minute video for somebody who doesn't even care. And then it fails. And they're like, oh, this video thing must not work. You know, whereas if you're making them short and you've gotten it down into a system and you're using it to just accelerate the people that are already talking with you and to get the next steps out of the people that are already in contact with you, it works astonishingly well, you know. But, and again, I think this is where people, you know, get really caught up in like, oh, it has to be a talent show, it has to be perfect, I have to come up with this like creative idea and I have to do all this, because it's a last ditch desperation move and they're pleading for attention, you know. Whereas I say, like, the thing about improv is like it is a very egalitarian form of performance. You know, it's not like Broadway where the performers are up here on a stage and the audience is down here, you know, and it's like you are eye to eye. The audience is part of the show. You're pulling them into the action. And what a lot of sellers do is they flip that dynamic, that Broadway dynamic, where like they put the buyer up here, they're down here, like, oh, please, I just need 17 seconds. I just need your consent. I just need that. And it's desperate. Whereas on video, you should be coming in literally at eye level. Like, you literally set the camera directly at eye level. You talk to them like they are an equal, like they are sitting here in a room with you. And you keep it light. You keep it about them. You keep it 45 seconds long maximum. And all of a sudden, it's way easier to generate conversations.
I love that. That's great advice.
This is perfect. You know, this is Chris. We can't thank you enough. You know, I think First and foremost, I love the video that you did with Will from Lavender a couple weeks ago. If everybody out there watching the audience, go check that video on SenseSpark's YouTube page or LinkedIn, and just so many great nuggets from here. I know Dan's been writing notes, I've been writing notes, so we can't thank you enough. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, they love what you're selling right now in terms of like your personality, yourself, and like you mentioned, the course that you sell as well. How can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, so you can purchase the course at chrisbogue.io. It's called The Complete Guide to Selling on Video. That is the if you want to get this sales process down, that covers everything. It is an in-depth course. It starts with the on-camera performance. Where do you put the lights? Where do you put the camera? How do you get that conversational tone? It goes into script writing. So what do you say for cold outreach versus a follow-up versus a referral ask versus a meeting recap? Goes a little bit into LinkedIn growth strategy. And then it ends with like editing, subtitling, and outbound for LinkedIn and Gmail. So you can get the complete guide to selling on video through chrisbogue.io. You can also just connect with me on LinkedIn. Look for Chris Bogue. I'm friendly. I accept most connection requests, unless you're like a scammer or something.
How do you know until you accept the request, and then all of a sudden you get bombarded with these messages? It's like, oh my god, why did I hit yes?
You can usually tell if it's like a 2-paragraph long connection request. It's probably not good news.
Are the ones that just say "How are you?" with a question mark? It's like, yeah, okay. Yeah.
No, there's red flags you can search for. And then I also have my own podcast. So anybody who wants to check me out, my podcast, it's called Chris Sells His Soul. You can get that on Spotify or wherever you get podcasts, but it is conversations about how to monetize creativity. We talk a lot about sales and also improv and marketing and like how do you get in front of your people out there as like the best version of yourself. And those are the best ways to reach me.
Done deal. Awesome, brother. Thank you for all of your advice. I mean, it was stellar. I got tons of notes here I'm going to implement today. What would you suggest? Actually, last question before we go. What would you suggest the first thing someone implements is?
Like
just pick up their phone and start recording and send it and see what happens? Like,
I would say pick a list of five names. If you're going to sit down and make a sales video, you might as well make 5. You start with 5. If 5 sounds like too much, start with 3, but never just make 1. You're going to sit down and again, just like, when you're calling, you're going to make 50 dials or 25 dials or however many. If you're going to start with video for sales, do 5 in one sitting and then move on to your next thing. And it's like a sales leader once asked me, what's your ceiling? What's your floor? Maybe your ceiling is 5 and your floor is 3. Every day, if you can go out there and hit 5, again, you're on track for 100 a month. If you're falling below that, hey, you hit 3, that's still, 15 a week. That's still sizable volume. Don't let it just be one. Start with more than one. Curating a good list is going to make it a lot easier.
It's great advice. Great advice. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.